where for the longest while we've seen the market question Pick n Pay's lack of an African strategy. We're seeing some traction now being made, and the latest is this entry into Mozambique. Run us through how this fits into your strategy now.
Well, yeah, I think we've for quite some years now have had a planned and deliberate approach to Africa, and this has seen us speed it up a little bit over the last 2 years. But there's been an enormous amount of investigation, and as you've said, we opened our first store in Zambia last year. We opened a second store in Zambia in March of this year, and we just opened our Mozambique store yesterday.
Well, what kind of growth are you anticipating here? Because this, to an extent, will influence the kind of aggression you head into this market with.
We do foresee a growth. I mean, we have definitely secured Mauritius, which we will open our first store in September, and we've already planned for our first store in Malawi next year.
But particularly pertaining to Mozambique?
Mozambique, we see a huge amount of growth. We believe we've found really good partners. A company called Retail Masters, who are on the ground, absolutely understand the retail environment and market. And we foresee a really good growth over the coming years in Mozambique. Is
that going to be your strategy for the most part, venturing into the continent, looking at partners with on-the-ground experience, or are you looking at venturing into some territories alone?
No, we plan to absolutely do both. We will take on some territories as a corporate entity, as well as carefully choose selected local partners where need be.
Of course, logistically, that presents some challenge, because in the partnerships, you get to leverage off some of the experience those partners have already had. Independently, what are some of the logistical challenges you face?
Well, to be quite honest with you, I mean, we were always apprehensive about the logistics, but, it's still early days and one remains humble. But at this stage, logistics is actually not the biggest problem that we face.
What is?
Well, just I suppose the lack of information. There's really little information in Africa, and any information you've got to go and get on the ground and investigate it yourself.
Of course, when it comes to that, that learning curve, do you feel like you're punching a little above your weight at this stage, where we've seen ShopRite and Spar having developed much earlier and having tapped into those markets already, having gained the knowledge over the past few years?
No, actually quite the contrary. I think our lateness, so to speak, as you've said, what's happened is it's allowed us to learn from the mistakes of the past, and we're not reinventing the wheel. And, in terms of the market, it is hugely untapped.
Hugely untapped. There's a very interesting move you've made into Zimbabwe as well. I mean, you've had the purchase of a further 24% of TM supermarkets over on that end, and increasing your shareholding there to 49%. It comes at a very interesting time. So let's run through some of the potential you're seeing in that market.
Well, I mean, that deal is not approved yet. We currently await the approval from the Zimbabwean Reserve Bank. But for all intents and purposes, yes, the deal is on the table, and we hope to move that to 49% relatively quickly. And then we'll start having a look at what stores we can convert to a Pick n Pay branded stores.
Of course, when it comes to operations in Zimbabwe, it's the political landscape that presents much risk. How are you navigating around that?
Well, we've got a brand in Zimbabwe, TM Supermarkets, who have been around a long time. They adequately run that business. They really are experienced in that market, and we have all faith in them managing that business now and way into the future.
If we put out a timeline and possibly set out a target, let's say over the next year, just what kind of growth, revenue growth, are you anticipating to filter through from your other African markets as opposed to South Africa?
I think it's too early to start quantifying any sort of numbers. Really right now we have 30-odd stores outside of the borders of South Africa, excluding TM. With TM, it's about 88. But this is, as I said in the beginning, a planned and deliberate approach, and we stay humble right now.